So now can you install packages? Let it be using apt or let it be using yum. That is what we have discussed in the last class, right? Okay. And there are two cases where repository is already added and repository is not added. Yeah, good, sir. Fine. Now, what I want to speak about is I want to speak about secure shell, or to be very specific, I want to speak about SSH. But before I speak about SSH, I want to speak about three encryption techniques, or three techniques, or three key things which we need to basically understand secure shell communication, right? So basics to, or basic skills for SSH. Okay. Now let me start with typical scenario, right? Now I'll be using two characters over here. Correct. Now, right. Let me call her as Alice. Okay. And then she wants to speak with Joy. Now Alice wants to communicate with Joy. Okay. So they use some kind of a communication mechanism. Okay. So this is their communication mechanism. Okay. But this communication mechanism has a flaw. The flaw is even anyone. Okay. Okay. Anyone can hook. Okay. Okay. Anyone can hook and then understand what Alice is sending to Joy. What Alice is sending to Joy. Okay. The problem is our communication mechanism is not reliable. Am I clear on this? Okay. This is exactly what your internet is, right? So for example, if you are communicating over internet, if I can hook into your internet and basically see whatever data which you are trying to send. Okay. Did we understood the scenario? Okay. Okay. So let's understand a scenario where Alice wants to communicate to Joy. The communication, okay, which they are using, or the communication channel which they are using, okay, using is not secure. Okay. So anyone can hook and read their messages. Okay. /images/linux114.png. Okay. Now, what can be done okay, by Alice and Joy, so that they use the same communication channel. Okay, still their messages are okay, secure. They cannot change the channel. They have to use this channel. Okay. Now, can you tell me what is that they can do? I'm not asking you any technical question. I'm quite sure on that. Okay. So I got one response saying that use encryption. Right? Good. Now, what do I basically mean by encryption over here? So let us assume that when Alice types, hi, how are you? Okay. This is the actual message. This is the actual message. And on the channel, we will not be sending hi, how are you? Okay. We'll be sending, okay, an encrypted version of hi, how are you? So that might be something like this. Okay. So 1 minute. Encrypted version. Encrypted version is what? Hi, how are you? Will be something like this. Some junk characters. Now, your Joy also will receive this. Okay. But Joy, what she would do? She would try to decrypt. She would try to decrypt, and then they will get, she will get hi, how are you message. Am I clear on this? This is what you're trying to tell me, right? Yeah. Okay. Now this is what we want. Okay. So I'm not going to write all of this description, but I'm just trying to do this. Okay. So now even if the hacker receives the data, what will hacker receive? Okay. Hacker will receive this. Okay. And this data will not be very much useful for him. Yes or no? Because it is not the original version. It is not the original version. Okay. Right. So we are not stopping hacking. We are making hackers' life difficult by not being able to make the messages understandable. This is what happens in internet. This is what happens in internet. So they encrypt and decrypt the messages. Okay. Okay. Right. Now, what this hacker has done is he has got irritated of you. He has got irritated of you, right? And then he will not be able to understand your messages. Okay. So there are other kinds of attacks also possible. We'll be discussing about that. But first we will try to understand how can we encrypt and decrypt. Okay. So to do this encryption and decryption, we have two major ways. The first one is called as symmetric encryption. The second one is called as asymmetric encryption. Okay. So what is it? Symmetric encryption and asymmetric encryption. So in symmetric encryption, okay, both Alice and Joy will have the same key to encrypt and to decrypt. Okay, so to encrypt these messages, what they would be doing is they would be using the same key. Now let me use this key. Okay, now she also uses the same key. Okay, and she also uses the same key. Okay, so to encrypt also they are using the same key, and to decrypt also they are using the same key, right? So let me put it over here. Okay, so both are using the same key. This is called as symmetric encryption. Okay, so here we have some algorithms like AES and all that stuff. I'm not getting into algorithms, right? So am I clear on this? Symmetric encryption means both the sender and receiver will have the same shared key. Okay, right. Right. Now, basically what, there is one more kind of encryption. There is one more kind of encryption. And that encryption is basically called as asymmetric encryption. Asymmetric encryption. So how does asymmetric encryption work is, in asymmetric encryption, we would have, okay, two keys generated. We would have two keys generated. One is called as a public key. The other one is called as private key. And generally these keys are called as key pairs. These keys are called as key pairs. Okay, so in key pair what happens is, okay, let me try to use the stuff. Let me try to, let me see. Yeah, I want two key pairs. Yes. Okay, so what would happen over here is, okay, rather than both of them using the same key, okay, they will generate a key pair. Okay, they will generate a key pair. Okay, and key pair can be generated by any of the parties. Alice can generate it or Joy can generate it. Let us assume Joyce has generated it. And now what Joyce will do is, Joyce will try to give, okay, one key to Alice, and Joy will have the other key. Am I clear on this? Joyce will have the other key. And whenever you are basically sending these messages, okay, you encrypt the messages using one key and decrypt the messages using other key. Encrypt the messages using one key and decrypt the messages using other key. Is this understandable? Yeah, this is something which we call as key pair. And in this key pair, okay, one key, okay, I might call it as, if I call it one key as private key, the other key I might call it as public key. The way this encryption works is, if you encrypt the data with private key, you will be only be able to decrypt with public key. If you encrypt the message with public key, you will be only be able to decrypt with private key. Am I clear on this? Okay. So this is the second option which they have. Okay. Now, even on the unreliable world, even in the unreliable world, okay, in asymmetric, okay, Alice or Joy will create a key value pair or key pair. Okay. Alice will have a key. Okay. And Joy will have other. But remember, both are not same. Other key. Okay. Both are different keys. Okay. One key is called as public and the other is private. Okay. If the message is encrypted with public key, it can be decrypted with private key and the other way around. Okay. So if you have two private keys, you cannot encrypt and decrypt. You have to have a private key and a public key. You have to have a key pair. Okay. Am I clear on this, sir? Right. Now, what we would basically try to do is, the reason why I'm speaking about all of this is, there is some amount of communication between this, right, to what we are trying to do. So every day in our Linux machines, we will log in, yes or no? And while we are logging in into our Linux machines, are we not using SSH? Are we not using SSH, sir? Right. So let me quickly show you this. So I'm using something like this. Okay. So when I do this, what do I mean? What is happening internally? Okay. We know that it is working. It is allowing us to log in into Linux machines. But how this concept works is what we are trying to understand. What we are trying to understand. Are we clear, sir? Okay. So now every day when we log in, okay, in Amazon, we use some PEM file or whatever it is, right? So let me quickly open that PEM file in my notepad. So what is this? What is that I have highlighted in that? You have a private key and AWS is having some public key of it and it is allowing you to log in. Okay, or your Linux machine is having the public key of it and it is allowing you to log in, yes or no? So what we are trying to understand is, we are trying to understand how these communications work. How this communication work. Clear on this, sir? Okay. So if you want to know how to generate public and private keys, okay, generating public and private keys, okay, Linux, we have a very simple command called as SSH keygen. We have a very simple command called as SSH keygen. Okay, I'll be using that today. All right. So it is not about command, it is about beyond that. Okay. So prior to this SSH, what the world used to use is they used to use something called as telnet. Okay. Now let me try to write about it. So telnet was used to communicate with a remote server. Okay. Telnet is not a secure communication protocol. Okay. Am I clear on this? And it transfers the data over network or internet in a plain text. So consider this. Replace this with Alice with you working from home and Joy as your server. Now, whenever you are logging into server, okay, you are using internet connection, right? Generally, and when you use internet connection, it is a plain text. Plain text means any hacker can find out what is the username and password of your server, all right, or at least what you are communicating, because this is an open communication. There is no kind of security over here. Was this okay approach? Definitely not okay approach, all right? So for this reason, okay, so to overcome this issue, SSH came into existence, and that is what you and me are using. Okay, now SSH, okay, is basically, if I want to abbreviate, secure shell, or it is actually secure socket shell. Okay, right, fine. So SSH protocol provides, okay, the secure way of accessing remote computers. Okay, here you will have two parties. Right? In SSH, we will have two parties. Okay, the first one is client or SSH client. The second party is SSH server. Am I clear on this? So whenever we are dealing with secure shell, okay, we are speaking with two parties. In this case, Alice and Joy. In the case of secure shell, we'll have two parties. Let me quickly have an image for that. Okay, let me remove this. Okay, so this is your, okay, server. Okay, whatever server it is, but I am calling that as SSH server. Okay, right, and then we would have a client. Okay, so this is something which I would call as SSH client. Okay, so if your client is a Linux machine or a Mac OS, right, you will have something called as terminal. Okay, so you can use terminal. Okay, the software which you use as an SSH client is, you can use terminal. Okay, or what is that I use in the class? Okay, you have seen me using Git bash. There are many SSH clients. Okay, So if it is for Windows machine, okay, git bash, okay. If you are on latest version of Windows machines, if you are on latest version of Windows machines, okay, right, we also PowerShell can do the trick for you. But if you are using Windows 7 or Windows 8, okay, so Windows 10 latest PowerShell, okay. So you can use any of these softwares, from this machine running on your laptop, okay, to establish the communication, with the server, okay. So this is the communication stuff. But is the communication secure or insecure? Right? So now basically what happens in SSH is, by default your SSH communications happen on 22 port on your server. 22 port on your server. And I'm trying to tell that all of these communications are secure. So they get, okay. Okay. So this is something which I'm calling as secure communication. Okay. So for this secure communication, they can use a public key mechanism, or they can use a symmetric encryption or a asymmetric encryption. Are we clear on this, sir, now? Yeah, there is putty also. I'll not even like putty, sir. I somehow don't like putty. I don't know. I have some inherent problem with them. For me, it still looks like Windows. Okay, it will not give me a feel of Linux. Yeah. Now, there are many things, right? Whatever the SSH client it is, right? Okay. So let me write them. Okay. So SSH client. Okay. Clients on systems. Okay. So right. Man. Okay. Right. So this is basically what it is. And now what I would try to do is, let us try to understand how this whole stuff is working. Okay. So 117. Do we have saved it as 118? Okay. Right. This is 117. And here it would be 118. Right. Now, how this SSH is working? Let us try to understand that stuff. Okay. Right. How SSH works. So SSH protocol uses symmetric, okay, encryption, sorry, asymmetric, uh, asymmetric encryption and hashing in order to secure transmission of information. Let us try to understand what happens. Okay. So SSH connection, okay, between client and server happens in 3 stages. The first stage is verification of server by the client. So first client verifies the server, and then the next thing what happens is generation of session key to encrypt all the communication. And the third thing that happens is authentication of the client by server. Authentication of the client by the server. Okay, right? Let me try to communicate to one of the server, okay, on the Linux machine. Okay, so I will take this Ansible control node. So are you seeing this SSH key? I'm not worried about SSH command yet. Okay, we are worrying about approach. We are worrying about approach. Okay, now I paste this command, I enter this. Okay, so what is happening for the first, for the stuff over here? Okay, now let me write down. This is what I'm trying to speak. The first stage, verification of the server by client. Now who is client over here? My laptop or my Git bash is the client. What is the server? Server is the Amazon's machine which I am trying to communicate. Now over here what is happening is, okay, client, okay, initiates SSH connection with server. Okay, so server listens to SSH connections, okay, by default on port 22, TCP port 22. Okay, right. Now basically at this point is where the server identity is verified. Okay, so at this point is server identity verified. Okay, but we have two cases. Okay, so the first case is communication between client and server for the first time. Am I clear on this? Whenever you are trying to communicate from client to the server for the first time. Okay, so in this case, what it is trying to basically do is, are you seeing this message? Okay, so it is trying to tell that this is your server's fingerprint, and this is the server which you are trying to authenticate. This is the server which you are trying to authenticate. Now you try to tell me whether you want to allow this. Whether you want to allow this. Okay, for subsequent communications, I will save this fingerprint. I will save this fingerprint and I will store this information in a file called as known hosts. I'll store that file, store that information in a file called as known hosts in a home directory. Am I clear on this? Right? So here basically what is happening? So client is asked to authenticate. Okay, okay, authenticate the server manually by verifying, okay, the public key of the server. Okay, once the key is verified, Okay, the server will be added to in the home directory. We will have a .ssh folder. In .ssh folder, there will be a file called as known underscore host. Known underscore host. Am I clear on this? Now, if I say yes, okay, now it might be late. Next time it will not ask. Why? If I get into my home directory, okay, let me exit out of this. Okay, if I get into my home directory, in my home directory there will be a file called as .sh. If I get into this, are you seeing something called as known underscore hosts? Okay, so if I open this known underscore host file with Notepad, are you seeing there is some information that is getting stored? Okay, so this is how client verifies. Okay, this is how client stores. Okay, now the second case is, okay, the first case is whenever you are accessing for the first time. From there on, from the second case, if the client is not accessing the server for the first time, server's identity will be matched with previously recorded information. Recorded information on known underscore host file. Am I clear on the first step? Yes, sir. Are we clear? Whenever you are communicating with the SSH server, you will always get that yes. That yes means this much. Okay. Now, this approach is same even if you are logging in with password. There is no difference. Okay. Right. Now, what was the next step? Generation of session key. Okay. So, after the server is verified by client, both parties negotiate, okay, a session key using, okay, I don't want to write it, but yeah, it's okay, right? Using some version of, there is one algorithm, one mathematician, okay, which is Diffie-Hellman algorithm, okay. So, am I clear on this? They create a session key, okay, and for creating that session key, they will be basically using the some version of this Diffie-Hellman session key. This session key will be used for every session. Every session, it will be basically different. Okay. And now, the third and the last case, which is authentication of the client. Okay. So, final step involves authentication of the client by server. Okay. Am I clear on this? Authentication is done by using actually SSH key pair. Is done by using SSH key pair. Okay, right. So we also have password based authentications. We also have password based authentication. Okay. Now basically, even if it is a password based authentication, SSH is basically secure because of that session key. Your whole communication is happening over the session key, and there will be some kind of encryption that happens, right? So here I have forgot to mention one thing. This generated session key is used for encrypting and decrypting the messages during the session. Okay, right. Now, basically, okay, after this session key is generated, there are certain steps that happens, right? So I'm trying to write about key pair values itself, okay, but the whole idea is, even if it is a password, it's almost the same, only few steps change, right? So now client, okay, begins by sending, okay, as soon as, okay, session key is generated, okay, the authentication happens as mentioned in the following steps. Okay, now what client does is, client begins by sending an ID of the key pair. It would like to authenticate with server. It is not sending the whole key pair, it is just sending the ID of the key pair. Okay, so now what happens in the server is, okay, server checks something called as authorized keys. Okay, file, okay, to verify if the key ID is matching or not. Okay, if matching ID is found, okay, then what server does is, server generates a random number. Okay, man, server generates a random number. Okay, this is all mathematical stuff. You may not even need to know all of that, but still I'll try to tell it. Okay, and uses the public key to encrypt the number and sends this message. Okay, now if the client has the correct private key, okay, it will decrypt this message, right? Okay, and obtain random number. Okay, clear on this? So this random number, okay, is combined with session key, okay, and hash is generated. Okay, this hash is sent to server. Okay, so see, lot of things are happening. We don't even worry about all of this. Okay, so this hash is basically sent to the server, okay, as an answer. Okay, so if server agrees to this answer, okay, now server allows to communicate. Right? So since server gets the answer, since server gets the answer, if the two values match, it proves that client is valid or is in possession of, or client has valid private key, and client is authenticated. Okay, are you seeing there is a lot of things that happen? So first what happens, right? Three stuffs. Your client will verify the server. Okay, so for that it will use a known host file. After that is being done, then what happens is, okay, both parties basically agree on some session key. Okay, whenever you try to communicate with a SSH server, a client key is a session key is generated. Now authentication happens by using SSH key pair. Okay, so as soon as session key is generated, what client does is client sends the ID of the key value pair. Okay, now server checks a file called as authorized keys file. If the ID is matching, then what it would basically try to do is it will try to generate a random number and it encrypts with a public key. Okay, now once the client receives it, if it has a right private key, it would be able to decrypt that message, and then it will add that random number to the session ID and then sends the hash as an answer back to the server. If the server verifies that these two are same, then it would try to allow you to communicate. Now this much is happening when compared to what Telnet was allowing you directly. Now at least do you agree that SSH is secure? Right. So what we would do in our next class is we would try generating this. Okay, this is the actual aspect of it. Okay, even if you don't know this aspect, we would need to basically work with SSH keys, generating SSH keys, passwords, right, and all of that stuff. Okay, so sir, ID in the first case, if you basically know any private key and a public key, right, every key will have some kind of an ID, right, sir? I'll stop it at that.
Thanks for watching. For more videos, subscribe our channel and click on bell icon.